Good afternoon, welcome to today's planning meeting. My name is Chatteris, and I'm chairman of the planning committee of Fenland. I've got all those members of the public and press in attendance, those who watch the live stream this meeting sorry, I'll start actually about the Good afternoon and welcome to today's planning meeting. My name is Councillor David Connor, and I'm chairman of the planning committee here at Fenland. I welcome all those members of the public and press in attendance, and those who are watching the live stream this meeting via YouTube. Whilst the meeting is being held publicly, it's also being streamed via YouTube. Minutes of the meeting will be produced in the usual way, and the recording of the minutes will be available to view on YouTube. Such times as minutes are produced. Be aware that the only audio from the microphones will be captured on the live stream. Therefore, those of you who want to speak, you can ensure their microphones are on when speaking and as close to you as possible. To enable the meeting to run in an orderly manner and all present keep their microphones off, except when you like to speak. Please ensure that the microphone is turned off when you have finished speaking. I'd also like to ask everyone to ensure that their mobile phones are on silent or turned off during the duration of the meeting. Please be aware that all cameras will be on at all times during the meeting. With regard to the meeting, I must ask members of the public to refrain from interrupting. The only members of the public allowed to speak are those who watch. Anyone who speaks must do so in a respectful manner. Instead, it is right there to read discussions about the merits of the act.
All will not allow inappropriate language or personal attacks on councillors and their beliefs, on members of the public or on officers' professional advice. So with that, we'll go to agenda item 1, and could I ask member services if they have any apologies for absence, please? Over to you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillors Cornwall and Councillor Purser. I'd just like to bring committee's attention that Councillor Scanlon is in attendance today, substituting for Councillor Purser.
Yeah, thank you once again for substituting Councillor Scanlon. Agenda item number 2 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the previous meeting of the 24th of August, 2022. Do I have a proposer to approve the minutes, please? Councillor French, have we got a seconder, please? Councillor Benny, anybody got any comments before? So all those in favour of adopting those minutes? Councillor Scanlon obviously wasn't here, so Joe, I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much for that. So we'll now go to agenda item 3, which is urgent items. Again, there are none. So moving on quickly to 4 declarations of interest. Member services will now go to each councillor in turn, and can you please state if you have anything to declare in relation to any agenda item here before us this afternoon? Thank you. Over to you, Joe. Thank you.
Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Joe. As always, declare my interest. I know Matthew Hall from Norton Hall. He does work for me privately, and he also does work for Chatteris Town Council. But I'll approach every application with an open mind, and this is the thing that will sway me on knowing this is a personal friend or a personal acquaintance. Also, item 7 and 9 today have been before Chatteris Town Council, but I was not there at the meeting when it was discussed with the planning committee, and I take no part in the voting or discussions around these or any other applications.
Thank you. Councillor Connor.
Yes, thank you, Joe. I'm a member of March Town Council, but take no part in planning matters that come before this council or anywhere else for that matter. I've been advised by the solicitor here this afternoon that I am, just to reiterate, that I am a member of March Town Council, and I will not be taking part in the discussion or voting on application number 5. And I should ask my very able Vice Chair, Councillor Davies, to chair this meeting when the time comes. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs Davis.
Nothing relevant to this agenda, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs French.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a member of March Town Council. I take no part in discussions. I have been advised on agenda item number 5 that I cannot take part, but I will be speaking in a private capacity at the visitors table, but will not be taking part in the vote.
Thank you. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. I'm a member of Mainly Parish Council. On item number 6, I was present when this was discussed, however, took no part in any of the communication regarding it. And also on item 6 as well, I believe I probably was at school with one of the owners of the property as well, but haven't seen them for at least 40 years.
Councillor Mrs Mayor.
I'm a member of Whittlesey Town Council, but I've nothing to declare on this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. I attend Chatteris Town Council, but take no part in any of the planning applications or any matters brought up.
Thank you. Councillor Scolding.
Hello, I'm a member of the March Town Council, although so I will not be taking part on agenda number 5, Town Hall. I do not take part in any part of the planning on March Town Council. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Sutton. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Joe. I'm a member of Whittlesey Town Council. I'm the chairman of the planning committee there on agenda item 8. I will not take part in this discussion, but I support the decision by Whittlesey Town Council on this application.
Thank you, Chairman.
We now go to the main part of the meeting, the planning applications. To remind members, a proposal to grant or refuse an application should only be made when invited to do so, and if going against the officer recommendation, the proposal should be accompanied by the planning reasons for doing so. I will now hand over to David Rowan, Development Manager, to present application FYR 220464 LB, agenda item number 5. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Chairman. If you can just bear with us a moment, please, while we get the slideshow presentation on the screen for you. Apologies for that brief delay. So FYR 220464 LB is an application for listed building consent at March Town Hall at Marketplace in March. Initially, I'll just give a verbal update to members in that we received comments yesterday from the County Council's archaeology team, who have stated we have no objection to the principle of the development, but would note that the submitted heritage statement and other information submitted by the agent is insufficient in detail for the impact on the designated heritage asset to be properly assessed at this stage, and consequently the application is in deficit with respect to paragraph 194 of the National Planning Policy Framework. The application site is shown in red on the location plan and aerial photo. I'm sure most members are familiar with the location of the town hall and the marketplace. It's a grade 2 listed building and is also within March Conservation Area. The application seeks listed building consent to remove and replace in their entirety the existing entrance doors to the building. So the upper image shows the current doors in the context of the building, while the proposal is shown on the lower image. The photographs show the building as it currently is with those existing doors there. So particularly the image on the right shows the doors in sort of quite a bit of detail. To summarise, the doors currently within the building appear to be the original ones installed at the time of the building being constructed, and therefore form part of the historic fabric of the building. As members will be aware, there is a presumption to protect listed buildings and the historic fabric unless changes can be fully justified. It is considered that the application submitted is inadequate in terms of its justification as to why the wholesale removal and replacement of the doors is necessary, and why, for instance, the continuing repair of these would not be appropriate. The application also fails to articulate what public benefits would arise from the works, which could be balanced against the harm arising from the loss of this fabric. Consequently, the application is considered to be contrary to the policies of the MPPF and the local plan, and the recommendation is therefore to refuse listed building consent as set out within the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have two speakers on this application. The first speaker I'll call is Councillor French. Councillor French did not register to speak because she was at the time unaware that she wouldn't be able to take part in the general process of this committee. As chair, I've given her leave to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And because of that, I don't have a speech, but I'm going to give you a slight history lesson, if you don't mind. I believe it was 1985, this building was listed. It used to belong to Cambridge County Council, and it was used as a magistrate court for many, many years. When County Council decided that they no longer wanted it and the magistrate court went, the late Peter Scolding, rest his soul, he actually purchased the building. It was in a terrible, dilapidated state when he bought it, and he actually handed it to March Civic Society so that the building was protected. They then went on and gained the grant from the lottery, which I believe was over £1 million, and the building was substantially redone up, including the double glazed units in the cafe, and the cafe has been very successful. Each time the trust put anything in to be done, they have problems. They've had problems with the double glazing. They had to replace the windows. They were actually falling out. But they were forced to actually put softwood in instead of hardwood, and an argument over double glazing. Now, the actual door is an original door. It's 120 years old. It has been repaired, I believe, about 15, 20 times. When you want to use that door, you have to actually put your shoulder to it. You can't just open it. So I think, it really is time that things move on. As you've heard me say many, many times, I want these buildings preserved. I think the Civic Trust have done their utmost to do it, and prepared to spend, and it's not a cheap door. I believe it's in the region of £10,000–12,000. So I do believe that this should be done. Interesting to hear what County Council have stated. I just wonder, under the Max and Arch Area Transport Study, which we're going to do major changes in the marketplace, will the County Council Highway Department need listed building because it's in the setting of the listed building? Interesting. Maybe the officers can answer that.
Are there any questions for Councillor French? No? Thank you, Councillor French. I'd now like to invite Matthew Hall, the agent, to make his presentation to the committee. You have 5 minutes, Matthew.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this application this afternoon. Members will remember this site when listed building consent was given for the replacement of existing timber frame windows to double glazed units in 2018, and then a further application in 2020. The proposal is to replace the existing double doors with new double doors with double glazed fan lights, all to match the existing style with no change in the actual opening size. The joiner, DR Betts, who made the windows and installed them, has visited site and reviewed the door. He's provided me with an email, which I'll just read. I have been and inspected the doors and feel it is better to replace them. There are several layers of thick paint on the doors, which has hidden the features of the mouldings, particularly the staff bead moulds on the meeting rails. In my experience, the best way to remove this is to have them dipped. However, this could cause problems once it dries out, as it may cause the panels to crack. Having said that, I noticed that there are a couple of panels already cracked, the crack running down them. There are pieces of mouldings which have been cut through for the letterbox, and pieces of timber inserted where the lock has been removed. The hinge stile on the left-hand side appears to have split where it meets the curved top rail. The door looks like it has dropped due to its weight and may require clamping and re-gluing. Just picking up on that, the door itself has been repaired on numerous occasions with new wood being spliced in, adjustments to the ironmongery and locking mechanism and replacements of the locking mechanism on several occasions. On reviewing the Conservation Officer comments on the 30th of August, it is our opinion and March Civic Trust's opinion that the Conservation Officer has not visited site to review the doors. The applicant is happy to provide joinery details of the proposed doors and the locking mechanism referred to by Cambridgeshire Constabulary as part of a condition. The existing doors can be removed and donated to March Museum to maintain these within the town as a relic of the town's history. The approved replacement of the windows previously in this listed building, together with the earlier setting of the aluminium framed windows and doors in the cafe, shows approval for the replacement of the fabric in this building. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite members who have any questions for Mr Hall to please raise their hand. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Mr Hall, were you aware of the comments of the Conservation Officer before this report came to the committee? So you were aware of it. So why wasn't the additional information provided so that a more pragmatic decision can be made with the additional information?
Sorry, Matthew, can you use your microphone?
Sorry. When the application was submitted, the officer came back to us, the planner, and asked for some additional information, which we then provided, from my knowledge, an email saying why we believe it should be replaced. So we did provide some additional information then. Since then, we didn't provide any, no.
Are there any more questions? Thank you. I'd now like to invite members to put questions to officers. If you'd like to ask a question, would you please raise your hand? No. I'd now like to invite members to debate the item in respect of the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, I'll go at it again. You know, as well as everybody else in here, is my favourite thing. Somebody wants to put a reasonable door on a place like that. The one good thing about it, I suppose, is not what happened last month when it was in here. It's not for in perpetuity. Otherwise, we'd be putting something on there in 200 years' time exactly the same again. It's quite it's nice design. It's very good. I think what it should do is just add to the building itself. And I can see in my life why we have to keep saying you can't have this, you can't have that. It's a building that's been brought to life, and it needs to be brought to life as well with these doors.
Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you. I agree with what Councillor Murphy just said. This building has been subject to various modifications and bringing up to date. The door is falling apart, for want of a better term. It needs to be replaced. You can't keep patching it up totally. I know, because I live in a historic building that's 170 years old, so I do know that problems do occur and they have to be addressed. And I think this is March Town Council's way of addressing this situation. The door needs replacing, and they're not replacing it with some plastic fake one. They're replacing it with something that's quite substantial. And I'm afraid I will be supporting this application because I think it needs to be brought up to date.
Councillor Marks.
I agree with both the speakers. It baffles me that we get to a point yet again, a bit like Chatteris, where we've got Trigger's broom. We keep patch to the point where you've got nothing left of the original door. why then do we just not replace the door?
Yeah, nobody's yet mentioned the fact that it's letting elements through and the draft. You've got to consider now the cost of heating a building like that. And that should be taken into consideration too. And I'm afraid on this occasion, I won't be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. I thoroughly agree with everything else that's been said here today. When this came before us for these windows, putting double glazing in before, I said the best way to keep a building in good repair is to keep it used and keep it aired and maintain it. This is maintenance. It's not cheap maintenance. It's expensive because it's being done properly. And I will be supporting this application this afternoon.
I'd like to put my little bit in as well, if I may. When you stand in front of those doors and actually look at them, you can see the old repairs and you can see the thickness of the paint and some of the beaded parts that are lifted. And I do know from what I've been told that local people do have issues with the doors. I mean, certainly there's a youngsters group that meets there, and the other night, whilst they managed to they lock the door for safety when they're in there, whilst they managed to unlock the door that evening, they then couldn't actually physically push the door. And so they had to phone someone to come and open it from the other side. Now, you could think that that's a group of youngsters that might have actually ended up being trapped in there under those circumstances. So I think the drawings that we've seen, it's a very fair replacement of the door. It's costing quite a lot of money. And I agree with Councillor Mayor, given the fact, you know, the cost of heating and everything these days, we should be looking to mitigate that. So that's my bit. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Before we go, can we just go back to the officers? Is there anything that you would like to say? Right, so I'd like to invite members now to make a proposal on the application. Councillor Scanlon.
I propose we go against the officer's recommendation because I don't think this will be detrimental to the historic nature of the building in any way whatsoever.
Okay, we need planning reasons. Policy numbers.
It won't be detrimental.
You can, yeah, okay.
No.
Councillor Murphy.
I'll say, can we just say suitable conditions? Because I'm seeing some of these conditions come out and I just don't believe some of them. I really don't. This just is wanted a door, it wants a replacement, and let's just get on with it.
Through you, Chairman, the likely conditions would relate to the material to be used to construct the door and also the design details. And you heard from the agent that they were perfectly willing to provide detailed drawings of the design of the door.
Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the proposal. We now go to a vote. Yes. So unanimous vote to go against officer's decision. And we need to take into account that obviously some members couldn't vote. I now hand you back to Councillor Connor for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Councillor Davis. Very well chaired indeed. I'll hand over to David Rowan to present agenda item number 6, F/YR 22/04950. David, when you're ready, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is an application for outline planning permission with matters committed in respect of access for the erection of up to 9 dwellings involving the demolition of an existing shed. Initially, just draw members' attention to the update report which has been circulated in respect to this application, mainly indicating a change to the description of the application to clarify that the dwellings applied for are self and custom build in nature. So the application site is shown in red on the location plan and aerial photo. It sits to the north of Westfield Road and to the east of Glebe Close within an undeveloped area of paddocks and grassland. The application is in outline only with access committed from Westfield Road as shown on the illustrative layout plan. And as you can see, sort of proposes a kind of a finger of development running out into the countryside with the dwellings arranged around a central spine road, and then at the northern end of the site an area of open space and an attenuation feature is indicatively shown. The plan now on screen shows the relationship between the site and flood zone 3. So the site is predominantly in flood zone 1. The flood zone 3 is indicated in the blue and white hatched area. So only the very sort of northern tip of the site is in flood zone 3, and that's as illustrated on the indicative drawing, potentially an area of open space. So the dwellings can be accommodated within flood zone 1. The photographs on the screen show the point of access and the street scene along Westfield Road, as well as also the shed requiring demolition and referred to within the description of the application. These further photographs show the current nature of the site. It's largely sort of maintained grassland. And then further photos again showing the nature of the site as it is at present. But to summarise, the site is considered to relate more to the open countryside than to the built form of Mainey, and would sit behind linear frontage developments with a consequent urbanising effect on the character of the area. This will be contrary to the relevant policies of the local plan and the MPPF. As set out in the report, the council has a surplus of self and custom built plots at present, and as such this argument cannot be given significant weight in the consideration of this application. The recommendation is therefore to refuse outline planning permission as set out within the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, David. We have one speaker on this application. I'd now like to invite Lee Bevins, of course, he's the agent, to make his presentation to the committee. When you're nice and seated, you have 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm a little disappointed that the wording on the description of this development is wrong. We specifically worded the application originally and completed the forms based upon 9 self-builds and custom builds. The difference is that Fenland DC must by law from the 1st of April 2016 keep a register of individuals and associations of individuals who are seeking to acquire service plots of land in their area to build their own homes. We've asked FDC on several occasions for a copy of this register, but only recently have we been provided with figures from 2016 onwards. What is unclear is whether the figures provided are for specific self-build custom builds as described within the qualifying terms of the Self-Build and Custom House Building Act. FDC is bound by this act to keep and publicise the register for self-builds and custom builds. If they are required to publicise it, I cannot understand why it isn't a public document. In considering whether a home is a self-build or custom build, FDC must be satisfied that the initial owner of the house will have primary input into its final design and layout. Out of the figures provided to us, I do not know whether the criteria has been met. This scheme, if approved, will meet all the required criteria to comply with Self-Build Custom House Building Regulations 2016. The officer refers to the site lying predominantly in the countryside. I refer members to the first slide. Yep, so. Members can clearly see that the open countryside is delineated by Darcy Lode to the north and the public footpath to the northern side of the site. Beyond Darcy Lode is typical Fenland farmland, which we would agree is open countryside. If members refer to the second slide, this has been taken from Ordnance Survey footpath maps and highlights the footpath that runs along the northern boundary alongside Darcy Lode. But interesting, the land south of Darcy Lode is generally coloured grey, inferring it to be within the built-up area of Mainey. The development is not out of keeping with the character of the area. This is clear from the first slide, and it shows Glebe Close to the southwest of the site, which is not a linear frontage site and therefore breaks the linear frontage pattern along Westfield Road, together with development at Dunvegan Close and recent planning approval at 18 Westfield Road. The proposal does recognise the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside by providing a green frontage to Westfield Road and retaining all of the trees and fauna at the northern end of the site adjacent to Darcy Lode. The layout suggests that this area would be further reinforced with additional tree planting to screen the development even further, and hedgerows would be retained and increased along western and eastern boundaries. A surface water attenuation facility would create a significant ecology enhancement on the site. Members will recall a scheme for 26 dwellings that was refused in July this year at 96 to 100 Westfield Road, and the officer has referred to this site and its similarities. I would note that this site has more cohesiveness to nearby housing and is less dense than that site, and it offers better mitigation to the countryside beyond its boundary. This site has a much clearer ecology strategy that could be further reinforced in future reserve matters applications, and this site does not require affordable housing provision. There are numerous letters of support for this scheme, which outweigh the number of letters of objection. Highways, the EA, Natural England, FDC Wildlife Officer, CAMS Fire and Rescue and FDC Environmental Health have offered no objections to the scheme. The officer refers in paragraph 10.9 about whether the site can be deemed brownfield. The fact is that the land lies within the curtilage of an existing structure currently, which was purchased and mortgaged under one title, with no agricultural restrictions and in accordance with the description of brownfield land as described in the NPPF. This was recognised in the Court of Appeal and accepted as case law in Dartford Borough Council versus the Secretary of State. This site should have been entered onto the brownfield register by FDC by the 31st of December 2017 and recognised as a brownfield site. It then follows that it is a brownfield site and cannot be a greenfield site. The parish's council's reasons for refusal are not strictly accurate. It is a brownfield site. The entrance is indeed opposite the fire station, but access will be made easier by cars no longer being able to park opposite the entrance to the fire station.
You have 30 seconds.
There is infrastructure to support the proposed dwellings with local shops, schools, bus services and a train station. The officer has already noted affordable housing is not the reason. I would therefore ask members to consider my counter argument to the officer's recommendation and support this application, which will provide the opportunity for 9 applicants to individually design their own dwellings. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Bevins. Members, questions, clarifications to Mr. Bevins. Councillor French.
Thank you, Mr. Bevins. Can you tell me, I don't know Mainey very well, can you tell me, is this walking distance to the train station?
It's a reasonable distance away from it's the opposite end of Mainey.
Sorry?
It's a walking distance, but it's a good walking distance. I would say half-hour walk to get to the station.
But we do have a brand new car park.
Yes.
Still questions for Mr. Bevins? Thank you, Councillor French, for kicking it off. Anybody want to make any other comments before we let Mr. Bevins go? No, it doesn't appear any burning desire to do so. Thank you very much. So, members, questions to officers. Councillor Marks.
David, you said regarding there was a quantity of self-build plots available. Is that within the Mainey area or within the district?
If I may respond, Chairman, through you, absolutely. If I could go beyond just answering your direct question, and to pick up some comments made by the agent, the register that the council maintains is not a public document in its own right, because the register comprises in the main people's names and addresses, and we can't share that for GDPR reasons. So the key thing about the register is the numbers of people that are on the register and have an interest in constructing custom and self-build accommodation. The information that has been provided to the agent is freely available on our website through our annual monitoring report, and that monitoring report has been compiled, I'll get my teeth in accordance with the requirements of the legislation in relation to monitoring of custom and self-build. The register relates to districts as a whole and does not become location specific, albeit that when people do register, they can indicate if they have a particular interest in custom and self-builds in a particular part of the district, but we don't actively monitor and record that. The statistics that are published on our website and also given to government each year and being shared with the agent demonstrate that the number of planning permissions that we grant is significantly higher than is our requirements. So to give you an idea, since October 2016, year by year, the requirement has been 18, 23, 7 to 5. The number of planning permissions granted is in excess of 100 every year, except for period ending 23, and through looking at HMRC information about VAT reclaims. The average number of VAT reclaims in our area is 36 per annum. So that shows that in terms of actual delivery of custom and self-built homes, we're exceeding our requirement. We have to monitor the number of planning permissions granted that may go on to be used by custom and self-build. So that refers to the in excess of 100 a year planning permissions. But as you can see, even if you look at actual on-the-ground delivery, we are exceeding the number of people that are coming forward on our list.
Just to clarify, they could all still be in Wisbech as opposed to in the main area.
They could be. There's no requirement for us to monitor. There's no requirement for us to factor that into our decision making as an authority.
Okay, and can I follow up one other question? We talk about affordable homes. Obviously, if somebody's doing a self-build, that becomes more affordable than a property that's already there. Is that taken into consideration when we mention about affordable homes?
Through you, Chairman, custom and self-built dwellings don't come under the definition of affordable homes, so it wouldn't be lawful for us to consider it on that basis.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, can the officers confirm, is it a brownfield site?
Through you, Chairman, the easiest thing for me to do is to give or to use the definition of previously developed land within the glossary to the MPPF, which says land which is or was occupied by a permanent structure, including the curtilage of the developed land, although it should not be assumed that the whole of the curtilage should be developed, and any associated fixed surface infrastructure. This excludes land that is or was last occupied by agricultural or forestry buildings, land that's been developed for minerals extraction or waste disposal, land in built-up areas such as residential gardens, parks, recreation grounds, and allotments, and land that was previously developed but where the remains of the permanent structure or fixed surface structure blended into the landscape. My interpretation of this particular site in the context of that definition is that while you have got a dilapidated building on sort of the front part of the site, I think it would be very difficult to say that the 4/5 of the site that stretches back into what was clearly shown on the photos as grassland paddock area could be defined as brownfield.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your query? Thank you very much for that. So we're still questions, clarifications to officers? No, can't see any more. Thank you very much, David and Nick, for those. So members, I'm looking for somebody to kick the debate off. Councillor Benny?
Thank you, Chairman. I look at this, whether this is brownfield or not, it's flood zone 1. This is the land we should be building on first. You know, it's 9 homes. Main is a growth village. It may be the other end to the train station, but Fenland have just provided a very big car park down there at their expense. And I'd like to see that, you know, used to its full. We've spent a lot of money on that because that falls under my portfolio at Fenland. So anything that is going to encourage the use of public transport in terms of the railway and support the railway at Maining, I think is good. Now, also, every business is struggling. Maining has got a few shops. It's got a very nice Indian restaurant in it. But all these businesses need people to spend money in them. And if we don't build more homes, those businesses are going to suffer and the business will go backwards. The village will go backwards. Maining is a thriving village. I know Maining well. It's got very good community spirit in it. And to me, this is a perfectly good development. We've got Glebe Close, which protrudes out into what is being classed in this report as open countryside, which I certainly don't. I think the lane at the back is the definition of, which is gardens as opposed to fields of wheat and barley growing wild. But I just look at this, and this to me is a piece of land crying out for development. And it will make the turning for the fire station better. This is quite a way into Maining. This is not on the outskirts of Maining. We've passed other developments on the entrance into Maining, and they've gone through. And this is the land we should be building on. There's 9 good homes here for people. Whether we've got a land bank that meets government targets or not, you know, they are a success story in their own right. The number of HMRC returns for VAT reclaims on these shows me that this is what people want. People want these houses. We passed a planning application for buildings. I think at the last figure, we had 2,800 and something homes, maybe Nick can confirm this, that have got planning permission already passed in Fenland that have not been built. Just because we pass it doesn't mean it's going to be built. And if we've got land that is passed with self-builds on, some of those won't be developed. And I look at this and I think this is a good development. And I think these probably will be built out and they'll provide homes. Something to do with the investment board of Fenland. I looked on there the other day for houses on Rightmove because we were looking at values of houses with land that's going to be developed. And I looked on there to see whether the valuations were right. And I was really, really surprised at the lack of property that is available to buy. And if you go to renting, people, these are not asking prices, these are starting bid prices for people to bid because there is a shortage of housing. The way to combat this, to get pricing where people can afford to buy their own homes, is to build more. If this builds these houses out, that is what we should be doing. The council has a responsibility for providing homes for people. And by providing these homes, it may not be the starter homes, it may not be the social housing, but the people who are moving into these come out of another house somewhere and free up a home. And that's the chain that fuels an economy. And it also provides a home for a mix of different people as they move up and down the chain of housing. To me, this is in flood zone 1. It is within the build form of Maining. The CPCA and Fenland have put a lot of money into this with these railway stations. And if we don't support development in these areas, we are remiss because we are not supporting the very thing that we've spent public money on. And we should be passing houses to make sure that what we've spent our money on becomes a success, not a failure. And I think that this type of application is the very thing that Maining blends to. Maining's had self-builds. It's had a lot of individual small developments right through the whole village. I've known Maining since I was at school. And I think that this is a perfectly good example of what can be achieved in Maining. And I will be supporting this application.
Yes. Thank you very much, Councillor Benny. Councillor French, then Councillor Davis, or Councillor Davis first, if you wish.
We heard reference to the refusal of the 26 dwellings at 96 to 100 Westfield, but I don't think you can make a comparison really, because that's if that is on the edge of the village, that is going out. I know we're talking about going out that way into the countryside, but I think when you looked at the picture that, that was shown where we had it, you could clearly see, is it Glebe Estate? I believe close, and then this one was only going out as far as that line anyway, so, I think I would be inclined to go against officers.
Councillor French, it's your turn, short, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree with what most speakers have seen, but I would like to pick up what Councillor Benny said. Fenland didn't pay for the car park. It was the Cambridge Period Combined Authority. I sit on the March Rail side, and I know that the Mamie side have been working for many years. Now, before it was agreed by the Combined Authority to actually fund the new car park, and it is, I believe it's 116 car parking spaces. Prior to that being done, they looked at the infrastructure, looked at what the possibility of growth, and they certainly would not have agreed to fund this at a considerable cost if they didn't think that Mamie would be a growth village. As Councillor Benny said, that, you know, houses are very, very short in Mamie. It is a nice village. We've got a great car park, which isn't used very much. Hopefully, when there are more people move in, they will use the train station, because the roads round about are not particularly good. And I sympathise with people who use that road on a daily basis. It's not a good road. So I will be not supporting the officer's recommendations on this.
Thank you, Councillor French. Anybody else got anything to say? Yeah, okay. Councillor Marks, please.
Obviously, I'm the councillor for Maney. Lived there 18 years of my life. Maney has certainly grown even in the last 18 years. We have had self-builds just recently on Station Road, and these self-builds really look to be much the same. They're not pushed in like a lot of the other developments have been in Maney. They seem to have good space around them, which I think it speaks volumes as well. Unfortunately, as Councillor Benny has already said, businesses do thrive. However, we have just lost a shop in Maney because there wasn't the footfall, which we need to pick up on. Everybody is talking about the station and what that's bringing into Maney, but we still need the people to live in Maney. The other problem is, I can tell you as of today, believe it, I think it's 14 properties on Rightmove for families. My daughter is trying to find a house at present time and has been looking now for 9 months. We've put an offer, she's put an offer in, I think, on 3 different houses. And again, either been gazumped or whatever, but she wants to stay in Maney. The children are at school in Maney, and that goes for a lot of other families as well. And self-builds also give the option of younger families trying to build. Some of them, I'm sure the husbands, wives, whatever, will be builders or whatever. So that also brings stuff into Maney and gives them a reason, cheaper properties. So I'm sorry, but I will be supporting this development.
Anybody else at all? Well, I think I'll just be rather remiss of me not to come in here, really. I'm not going to reiterate what the council said, but I absolutely agree what they say. We've heard from the district councillor, he's in favour of it, and I am going to go against officers on this one and to support this application. Thank you. So, any more for the debate? No. So I'm going to bring officers in now. If
sorry, can I just add?
Yeah, sorry.
I believe in the new local plan, we are looking to extend the boundary of Maney down to the Darcy Road, and there'll be further developments being put in along that piece of road or a piece of bank as well. And we also recently did the Dairy Lane as well. So we've got developments working their ways along that road now. Thank you.
Right, so I think I've got a steer where this is going, but before I ask for a proposal, I will bring officers in. Thank you.
Just on that last point, Chairman, the consultation version of the emerging draft plan shows this particular site sitting outside of the village boundary. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Councillor Marks, please come in. Yeah.
Sorry, can I confirm that is what you as FDC are suggesting, or as a parish council we suggested previously? Because I believe there's two differences to the boundary movements that FDC are saying regarding what the parish council initially asked for hence why we've tried to have a meeting.
Through you, Chairman, I thought Councillor Marks was referring to Fenland District Council's proposals in the local plan, as opposed to the opinions of the parish council. Forgive me for that misunderstanding.
No, that's fine. As long as we've squared up and everybody knows where they are, that's all we want. So, David, still in for
Thank you.
officers.
Thank you, Chair. I think just to clarify the point that I think was perhaps made by Councillor Davis in terms of the developments kind of not protruding out into the countryside beyond Glebe Close. That's not actually the case. The indicative layout shows effectively dwellings extending out approximately 50 metres beyond the line of Glebe Close, just so that members are under no kind of misapprehension about that.
Okay, so David, Nick, any more points? Before I look for a proposer on this, so we're in proposal territory now, so who would like to propose what they wish to do? Councillor Benny?
Yeah, I propose we go against officer's recommendation and approve this application. I'll leave
Reasons, please.
Yeah, I'll go into that, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you,
As I say,
Councillor Benny.
I was in mid-flow of saying I'll leave officers to do the conditions. LP3 building in the open countryside. I don't consider this is in the open countryside any more than Glebe Close is, maybe marginally, but boundaries are there to be pushed. LP12A, Part C, it would not have an adverse impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding countryside. We're not building on farmland. I don't consider that it will have an adverse effect. I think it will add to the character of Mainey, and I think it will provide some very much needed homes. Part AD, the proposal is of a scale and in a location that is in keeping with the core shape and form of the settlement and will not adversely harm its character and appearance. But I don't think this will deter from the character of Mainey. And just because something is how it is doesn't mean it can't be better. And I think that this Mainey has got to grow. And where else do we grow if we don't grow in the direction that this is heading? 16D. So many policies take me a while to get there. Makes a positive contribution. Again, that's subjective. Obviously, officers see it one way, and we will find out in a minute whether members view that in a different way. I certainly do. So I think that's a subjective thing, which comes down to personal interpretation, and that's a very vague policy. You can find as many reasons in LP16 to pass something as you can to refuse it, and that goes with nearly every application that has LP16. So I feel that would be my reasoning for wanting these, and I think top and bottom, this will provide homes for people.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to accept the policies for interpretation. I'm happy to accept your explanation of why you're proposing this. So with that in mind, have we got a seconder? Sorry. I need a seconder first, and we'll come back to Nick. Okay, Councillor Marks, would you like to come in now, Nick?
Thank you very much, Chairman. During the debate, a number of members made reference to the sort of benefits that this development would bring in terms of delivery of custom and self-build. So I note that Councillor Benny gave authority to officers to apply appropriate conditions. So would that also mean that you would want a legal agreement to secure that this development is delivered in the form of custom and self-build?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. You know, that is what is on the table, and I'm happy with those conditions to be placed on this application. Councillor Benny?
I mean, that to me is what is on the table. That's what I'm proposing.
Absolutely.
And that's how I interpret this to be. These are self-built homes. So yes, I fully agree with that.
You're absolutely right. We can't deviate from what's in front of us. We can't put ifs and buts in. This is what this is what's proposed, and this is what may or may not go through. So going back to it, so we've got a proposal by Councillor Benny, seconded by Councillor Marks, to go against officer recommendation to approve this application. Can we have a vote of show of hands on that proposal, please? Those against? Obviously, there's no abstentions. So Joe, over to you, please, for the result. So the application has been approved against officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 7 relates to planning application FYR 220529F. This is a full planning application to replace an existing shop front and separate access door with folding doors and the installation of roller shutters to the restaurant frontage. It's a retrospective application. The application site is 15 Bridge Street, Chatteris. The application site is shown in red on the location plan and aerial photo. The application premises front Bridge Street to the south of its junction with Dock Road. As can be seen on the location plan, it is located within the Chatteris conservation area, which is shown as the wider red area, or perhaps more pink on the slide on the screen. As indicated, this is a retrospective application, so the development has already been carried out. The floor plans on the screen show the pre-existing and existing. So the pre-existing on the left, the sort of existing on the right, and the folding door arrangements introduced rather than the more conventional window arrangements which existed previously. These changes are perhaps shown more clearly on the two upper images here, with the pre-existing on the left and then the existing on the right. These arrangements were largely accepted through the previous grants of permission on the site, albeit the folding doors installed are slightly different to those which were previously approved. However, as you will see from the lower right image, the application also proposes the retention of security shutters which have been installed without planning permission. To move on to the photographs of the premises, the left-hand image shows the front elevation of the building with the frontage as installed. The right-hand image shows a more sort of angled view, in particular showing the shutter boxes protruding beyond the front of the building. And then moving on to the final image, which is showing the frontage of the building with the shutters down. So to summarise, the doors installed are considered to be on balance acceptable. However, the shutters installed are considered to introduce a harsh and defensive facade into the street scene. Policy LP 17 of the local plan seeks to resist shutters generally. However, where they are necessary, they should be incorporated into the shop front and be of an open grille design. It is accepted that there have been incidents of vandalism at the premises and that shutters may therefore be necessary. However, the shutters here are not integral to the frontage, despite, as I think is set out in the report, there having been the opportunity for this to have been done with the part of the previously approved schemes and ultimately the works that have been undertaken. The shutters, perhaps most importantly though, are also of a solid construction, and this is explicitly contrary to policy LP 17. During the course of the application, the applicant was given the opportunity to amend these to more of an open grille design. However, that was resisted. The application is therefore blatantly contrary to policy LP 17 of the local plan, and the recommendation is consequently to refuse planning permission as set out within the officer report. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, David. Surprisingly, we have no speakers on this application, so I'll now invite members to put questions to officers. If you've got any questions, you know what you've got to do. So questions to officers, just to clarify, thank you. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you. It's just been said that the applicant was given the opportunity to amend their application from the solid to a see-through screen. Do you know why the applicant failed to take this advice?
Through you, Chairman, I don't. All I know is that option was put to them, and that was sort of rebutted, shall we say.
We all know that when you're purchasing something, the salesman will always go for the highest grade and the most expensive item in the that they want to sell. So I think the applicant was probably misled by the salesman into having a solid one when he was given advice to have a more see-through type that could have been acceptable. So yeah, we're in that position now.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Scanlon. Anybody else? Councillor Marks, thank you.
From memory, driving through Chatteris, there are a number of buildings that have solid rollers, including the old Budgeon site or whatever it is in the roundabout there. There's 4 or 5 properties. Would they have had planning permission as well at that point?
This is a question to officers,
Yeah.
Councillor Marks,
Yeah.
thank you. Please
Through,
answer, thank you.
through you, Chairman, they probably should have done. I have researched sort of planning permissions on shutters, and I'm not aware that there have been that many permissions actually granted, certainly not recently. However, I think to some extent what members have got to look at is the merits of this particular application and this particular case, rather than what may or may not have got permission elsewhere within the vicinity.
Surely though, if it's in a conservation area, then there's a precedent set by other roller shutters being allowed, solid roller shutters.
Through Chairman, I think I indicated I'm not aware that there have been too many examples of roller shutters having been granted within Chatteris conservation area. And ultimately, if permissions had been granted, that doesn't necessarily, those permissions had been granted historically, I should say, that doesn't necessarily automatically indicate that permission ought to be granted for, in this particular case, particularly given how explicit policy LP 17 is in terms of its resistance to solid roller shutters being installed on premises.
Still questions, clarifications to officers? Can't see a burning desire. Oh, sorry, Councillor Davis. No worries, thank you.
Right, can I just ask, did they put an application in for the roller shutters at the same time as they put the application in for the bifold doors? Or did that happen afterwards? Sorry.
Through you, Chairman, no, the previous 2 applications on other premises for shop frontages were purely for the shop front and didn't contain any details of shutters at all.
Right. Any more questions for officers? No? No. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to members to debate the item in respect of the material planning considerations relevant to the application, if you'd like to speak. So we're looking for a proposal on this application. Councillor Sutton, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is another example of the applicant riding roughshod over the permission he got. Looking back on the history, it looks as though officers did bend the rules slightly in allowing the bifolds, and then they go on, think, oh well, we're going to do what we like, and I think officers got it right. We shouldn't. I remember, and I'm sure other members do too. 7 or 8 years ago, we had a similar sort of thing in Wisbeach, and the applicant was crying Armageddon. If he didn't get these shutters, it was going to shut the shop and all sorts of things. And the shop is still there. It went along with what was advised on internal screening, and that's, I think we should stick to what we've said and agree with officers' recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Benny first, then Councillor Brent, then Councillor Davis. Carry on.
Yeah, I'm a Chatteris councillor. I've known this building. It was going back many years. This was a derelict building, and this has been pulled back into life. First, it was Bridge Cav. It's got new owners. Never met the man. I don't know him, but he has spent a lot of money on this, and that has gone from being a derelict building that now is a thriving business. You look at it, it looks good from the outside, and he suffered vandalism.
I think these shutters were put on, and I can't be sure of the timing, but I remember somebody that was on Facebook, somebody went and smashed all the windows in the front before the bifold doors were put in. And to me, you know, this is what roller shutters are for. This is to stop vandalism. And he's got a whole glass shop front there, which if somebody comes along again and does that, that is going to cost a fortune. Businesses cannot afford to keep buying glass through drunks coming home from the pub. And to me, this is what we should be doing. We should be passing these applications because it allows individuals to look after their own property and to safeguard their investment. This man spent a lot of money on this place, and it is a good business. I drive past there multiple times a week, a day sometimes. There are people sitting outside in the summer enjoying the cafe. It's a thriving business, and it looks a whole lot better than it did. In contrast, 4 doors down, we've got a stone-clad building with a tree growing out the front of it that's been like that for as long as I can remember. And the tree is a new addition that's grown there. We do nothing to smarten the town up because we don't do enforcement to stop this from it's got no roof on it. We don't do anything to smarten it up, but we criticise people who spend money on their own property to look after it. My application at Park Street was granted. Mine did have perforated shutters on it, but also the off licence further down in Wenny Road. That's in a conservation area. Listed buildings around it, just as it was with mine. Conservation area. That was passed on officer's delegation. I also look at this in the emerging local plan. We have where roller shutters can be put on if there's a history of violence and damage. So if we look in the new local plan, LP10, D, it is demonstrated that there is a persistent problem of crime and vandalism affecting the properties. Well, this property absolutely cries out for that. And I look at this, it's, you know, he's smartened this part of the town up. It's a little bit of good. In what has been, and we've had some really derelict buildings down there, and this smartens it up, and it allows him to protect his business, carry on. I see nothing wrong with this. I just think it is a common sense approach to me to solve the problem that is there. We've had the vandalism; it will happen again, and I think this will stop it. And this is what we should be doing to help businesses. When you've got broken windows, my shop was ram raided on the 6th of January. And that still isn't fixed, and we are months away from getting that new shop front in. We're getting closer to it. I've had the quotes and everything back. But we're going to be 9 months. Do we want this business to stand there with boarded up windows for 9 months while this gets fixed? No, we don't. It's not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial to the business. It's not beneficial to the customers. And it's not beneficial to the residents that live there. So I will be supporting this application this afternoon.
Thank you for Councillor Benny for that. Councillor Davis.
I hear what Councillor Benny is saying, but the point at issue here is they could have put the mesh rollers in, and then we wouldn't be sitting here now. And I think we have to be very, very careful about setting precedents that there they are, that shop's got, you know, solid roller shutters, invites anybody else who wants to put roller shutters up to go and put the solid ones when they probably could have put the mesh ones. I feel for the owner that I think Councillor Scanlon hit upon the point. He was probably given dumb advice from the roller blind people because the ones he's put in were probably more expensive. But he should have taken the advice that he was given from the officers. So as much as I would like to support the business, and I feel for them because I did see the windows I mean, it was every single window. But I think, you know, if we do this now, we're opening the doors to other people putting up these solid blinds.
I'm going to bring you back in, Councillor Benny, because you indicated that you want to. Then I'm going to ask Councillor Mark for his comments. Thank you. And then Councillor Miss Scanlon. So we've got a queue. Thank you.
I mean, yes, but this business is open from early morning. I went to Aldi early this morning, and that was open when I came back because I took a picture of it. And that business is open late at night. These shutters are not down when people are about. They're there at night time. This business has long opening hours. These people work very, very hard in these businesses. And the trouble comes at night. I agree with you in terms of perforations, but sitting here thinking the BP garage at Chatteris has got solid ones, and that's in a conservation area. And I believe Councillor Marks is going to suggest another place, maybe in Chatteris that has got solid roller shutters on. You know, when the business is open from early morning till late at night and nobody sees it, because at night time you can't really tell whether they're perforated or not, where is the harm? Every application is judged on its own merit. This is a retrospective application for whatever reason, I don't know. But this is here. Are we going to subject a business at a time when we're struggling from COVID, high energy bills and businesses? We are going to lose a lot of businesses in the high street if we don't support business. And to make him take that out and replace that shutter is unnecessary cost when this is doing the job that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, please come back and then I'm going to
Yeah,
bring in
could I
Councillor
just-
Marks.
Just get you to confirm as a Chatteris councillor, what you're saying is there is a precedent for solid rollers because there are other places in Chatteris that have that type of shutter, roller blind.
From memory, I'm fairly certain that the BP garage, because I drive past it every night when I go to put my dad to bed, I'm fairly certain that the BP garage has solid rollers, but I couldn't be 100%, but I am fairly certain in my own mind that that is yes.
Councillor Mark, you waited very patiently. The floor is yours.
Thank you. To just back that up, the old budgeting store has definitely got, because we've just looked on Google, solid shutters. And there is another point. This is actually a roadside as well, quite close to the roadside. There have been instances where stones have flicked up from vehicles going past and going through, hence why they put them up at night. Gritters go through and everything else late at night, hence why most people go for solid as opposed to see-through.
Good point, Councillor Marks. Councillor Miss Cameron, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. At 5.3 in the report, designing out crime, looking at the crime statistics that are actually on that piece of paper, there ain't that much crime. Robberies, one, but not at this location, and I've assumed that's Councillor Benny's shop that got ram raided. Public order, one, criminal damage, two, and this is over the past 3 years. So people using criminal activities to justify something that's not in keeping with the area, I think is totally misleading. Not recorded. So this is from the Cambridgeshire Constabulary.
As we know, no disrespect to the police, they don't always get it right, and people don't always report it, do they? That's the unfortunate part about it. We're always told if there's a crime to report it, but I'm going to call in Councillor Murphy now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we keep on and on about these conservation areas. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about mostly the ones in the centre of the town. This isn't a conservation area. If it gets much wider, it'll be in Doddington. I mean, I just do not understand these areas at all. It's not a very, I will say it's not a very pleasant area down there. It's okay, but it's nothing exceptional. It's got all different sorts of buildings. It's got modern buildings. It's got old buildings. It's got everything down there. I mean, I go by there probably 3-4 times a day or something like that, because I live down that area. But at the end of the day, if you go by it and have a look at it, it's very, very smart. It looks good. It is good. It's a busy business that needs, well, probably so. I'm not going to say I like to go there. But at the end of the day, it's a busy business, and it's right at the end of the Chatteris where it's needed. There's a lot of housing estates around that area. There's no other businesses around there, and it like Councillor Ben said, unfortunately it is on the way home for a lot of people, and it's in the, I suppose in that sense, it's in the wrong place, because it is in the vandalised part of Chatteris, and let's face it, it always will be. But I mean, the shutters, I mean, I'm a person that doesn't go out at night, so I don't see the shutters there, so, but it always looks very nice during the day when I go by, you know. But I mean, why are we worried about a shutter standing out from the building a bit? If it's shutters there, it's there. I really couldn't care less about a shutter. If it's up, it saves the business. I mean, I had a business in the centre of the town. I haven't got shutters on there, but I wish I had done, because we were vandalised and windows broken and stuff taken out of the shop. I wish I'd have got them there, but we have, that's another, I know what it feels like to be done over like that. And it is not a very nice experience, and I can't, and somewhere down that area where that is needs a shutter on it, and I really can't, it's not in keeping with the area, but what is in keeping with that area? Let's be perfectly honest, there's no in keeping with that area whatsoever. Everything's different down there, you know, and nothing's uniform at all. So I'm going to go against it, because I think the people who have got that business deserve to be, they deserve what they got, because they have put a lot of money into it. It looks very, very good. People use it. It's a very, very busy place.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Sutton.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It seems like all we need to do is spend a load of money, disobey the rules, and get it to committee, and it will go through. And there isn't nothing to do with policy. The policy is there to be still. If you want to change the policy, change it in the next plan. I'll ask the Chatteris members. They're so keen to get this one there. Would they like the whole of the high street with those black things on? I would suggest probably not, because we all know what happens there. You know, towns across the country, once they start these shutters, it just goes into a downward spiral, and it's not good. Thank you, Chair.
Well, Councillor Murphy's indicated that you'd like probably to reply to Councillor Sutton's comments.
I certainly would. You can't just think of this day and age. It's getting a lot worse. It's worse all the way through, and in the future, it's going to even worse, because it's happening now, and it will happen, and it will keep happening. It will be worse, because that's what people are like this day and age. Vandalism everywhere. I mean, I see vandalism every day of the week, because I have to do it in my portfolio job. People do things that you never even think about doing, but they do, unfortunately, and that's their life. That's what it's like. And apart from that, you didn't say about that, but the Chatteris Town Council that are in support of this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Davis, the floor is yours.
I just wanted to come back on the fact that earlier on, I said I felt that we needed to be careful about setting a precedent. It seems the precedent has already been set from comments from the Chatteris councillors. So I have to say I've completely changed my mind now, and I will be supporting the application.
Yeah, this is what the debate is for. It's never a hard and set rule until the hammer goes down, is it, with this committee? Well done for that. Anybody else, because we're in debate? No, we're all finished. Right, so I'm going to bring officers in there now to make any comments that they feel wish to do so.
Through you, Chairman, members making this minor point, the BP station actually sits outside of the conservation area, not inside. So I'm not sure if that has any impact on members sort of reflecting on their support for the proposal. The application site that we're referring to today is certainly inside the conservation area, so there's a difference there, Chairman. Thank you.
I will let you just come back, Councillor Murphy, because you've got had reasonable comments.
It was just what David just said. I actually think you're saying that the BP garage is outside the conservation area. Is that what you're saying? Because if it is, there's something wrong with the conservation area, because that BP garage is right in the centre of Chatteris. I don't know.
The BP, sorry to interrupt, Jem, the BP station I'm referring to is on the corner of Park Street and
Huntington Road, right in the centre of Chatteris, yeah.
If it's not in the conservation, if it's not in the conservation area, it's adjacent to the conservation area. And we get examples here at planning every week where it's adjacent to something, and we have to take that into consideration when it's the other way around. And if you want an example of something that does have solid shutters within the conservation area, then we'll use Budgeons building, because that is slap bang in the centre of town. And that does, Councillor Marks has got a picture of it on his phone. He looked on Google Maps. So if we need an example to clarify things, we'll use Budgeons instead of BP.
Chairman's discretion and all that. Have the officers got any more they would like to add to that before I look for a proposer? David, you're thinking? No. Okay, so we've heard from officers, so I'm looking for a proposal on this application. Councillor Sutton? Go with officer's recommendation. Yeah, right, okay. So we've got a proposal by Councillor Sutton to go with officers' recommendation to refuse this application. Have you got a second, Councillor Sutton? Councillor, Ms. Scanlon, you are mumbling there, so okay, so nobody's going to second Councillor Sutton, so that obviously has failed. So I'm looking for another proposal now. Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose we go against officer's recommendation and approve this application.
Reasons, please, sir. And I've caught you before mid-flow this time.
If you want me to go through the book,
yeah,
give you LP
please.
17E, but the principle of this is that it is needed. It is needed to secure that property. It is not detrimental to the area. It is beneficial to the area, because there's nothing worse than a shop that's broken for months on end. And to me, that is, if you want LP 17E, I'm more than happy to pass that over to you.
Yeah, just for that.
Proposes new shop frontage should avoid the use of external roller shutters. Well, they are there. It doesn't say no roller shutters per se. It says they should be avoided, but I see that the need outweighs the policy here. LP 16 and 18. Backwards. Delivering and protecting high quality environments, I would say as a general thing, this helps protect a high quality environment in what could be considered a low quality area. Because if you look at some of the other buildings that are around there that are falling down, they desperately need some money spending on them, and I'd be very pleased to see anybody else come forward to that. And LP 18, the historic environment. Well, if you don't spend money on doing things up and keeping things in good order that are in good order, these will fall into disrepair, and therefore you damage the historic environment that you've got there. It's better to do something than nothing.
Yeah, okay. I think you've summed it up pretty well there, Councillor Benny. So we've got to sum it all up now. To go against officer recommendation to approve this application is proposed by Councillor Benny. Have I got a seconder? Councillor Scolding. So with that in mind, to go against officer recommendation, just to reiterate, could we have a show of hands on that proposal, please?
Seven votes, Chairman.
Yeah. Those against? We have one, and I'll bet we've got Councillor Miss Scanlon who's going to abstain.
Two abstentions.
Two abstentions, Councillor Mayor. Oh, right. So, well, that application's been approved anyway. So thank you very much for that. Got there in the end, didn't we? We'll go on to application number 8. Would you like to present that application? Thank you, David, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So agenda item 8 relates to planning application FYR 220710. It's an outline application with matters committed in respect of access for the erection of up to 4 self and custom built dwellings along North 59 and 61 March Road, Coates. The application site is shown in red on the location plan and aerial photo. It sits to the rear of a recently constructed frontage development of 4 dwellings to the east of the junction of March Road with Feldale Lane at the edge of Coates. The land to the rear of these new dwellings is currently used as paddocks and grassland. And it should perhaps also just be mentioned for clarity that those 4 dwellings were permitted at a time when the council didn't have a 5-year land supply and the tilted balance in favour of residential development kicked in, as it were. So the arrangement of the site is shown in more detail on the plan here. The development is served by a single point of access and then an access drive running along the front of the dwellings. This is shown in the kind of the black T on the plan. And then you can see the 4 strips of land running to the rear of the properties. So the application is an outline with access committed. This layout is therefore illustrative. Access is proposed from the existing access drive between the 3rd and 4th of the dwellings, with the road then running back at sort of 90 degrees, and then the 4 dwellings shown alongside this. As I think can be seen from the illustrative drawing, this will be a clear case of backland development, with creation of a finger of development running at 90 degrees to that frontage, and also set sort of well behind that frontage development as well. So the upper images here show the nature of the site at present, looking away from the existing dwellings. The lower left image shows a view looking back, so down the site towards these. And then the lower right image shows where the access would be taken between the existing properties. And then the final image is an image from, it's taken from Street View, from the east of the site, looking towards the existing houses, which you can just make out sort of in the centre of the image almost, illustrating how open the site is within that aspect, and effectively how prominent the development would be in this view. Effectively, the development would extend approximately 185 metres beyond the existing dwellings. So to summarise, the development is considered to result in an in-depth incursion into the open countryside at odds with the existing built form and with an adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area. In addition, the site is within a sand and gravel safeguarding area as defined in the Minerals and Waste Local Plan. The development does not demonstrate that it is exempt from this policy, and given there is no overriding need for the development, it is considered that the application is therefore contrary to that policy. As set out in the report, the council has a surplus of self and custom built plots at present, and as such, this argument cannot be given significant weight in the consideration of the application. As such, the development is considered to be contrary to the relevant planning policies set out within the report, and the recommendation is therefore to refuse outline planning permission as set out within the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you once again, David. We have one speaker on this application. I would now like to invite Matthew Hall, of course, he's the agent, to make his presentation to me. You have 5 minutes when you feel able and ready to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members will have noted from the officer's report that there are no technical objections to this application. The applicant is trying to achieve executive self-build style properties similar in style to what is at the front of this site. Although the site plan shown on the screen is indicative, the proposal is likely to be for bungalows or chalet bungalows, not full 2-storey properties. Within Whittlesea's neighbourhood plan, it states that development proposals which make a provision for self-build and custom-built housing will be supported. Schemes which provide executives' homes as part of a wider housing mix will also be supported. This is what the applicant is trying to achieve, and any design of the properties would be agreed with officers. The officer's report refers to this proposal being related to the open countryside. Directly to the east of this site, the proposal is for an excess of 200 houses on land that abuts this site all to the east and is set as far back from March Road as this proposal. The proposal would not result in the loss of agricultural land. The land at the moment, as David has said, is used as grassland and is maintained by each property. The proposal still leaves large gardens to the rear of all the existing dwellings at the front of this site, and the land is all in flood zone 1. There's only been one objection to this proposal, which is from number 55, which we've reviewed, and this proposal, this site is in excess of 85 metres from number 55. When you read the planning officer's report, we actually think it reads quite positively. The report confirmed that there are no technical objections to the proposal. We've received a number of inquiries from persons wishing to purchase this site or individual plots, confirming that there is a great interest in this development to be built out. Under item 1.3 of the report, it confirms a policy compliance scheme could be achieved at this site in relation to highways, bin collection, flood risk, ecology, residential amenity, and drainage. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hall. Members, questions, clarifications to Mr. Hall, please? No one looks to me as though they want to. No, thank you very much for that. Members, questions, clarifications to officers, if you have any, of course. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. The agent made reference to there being one objection. That's obviously from a neighbour. You'll see in the report there was also an objection from that sort of application.
No mention was made of the town council. You're absolutely right. So with that comment, has anybody got any more questions, clarifications to officers? No, no burning desire. So, Councillor Benny, you're just in at the last minute. Thank you.
Leave it to the edge.
Absolutely.
Question for Dave. I looked on the new the new local plan. This is adjacent to the big site that is earmarked for development further out into the open countryside in the new local plan. It's in the Sheila report. Just making sure I've got the right place.
Yeah, very interesting. Please answer that.
Yes, that's correct.
So this piece of land would then, if that does come forward as a development, would be between the built-up form and this new development?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's probably a worthwhile question to ask, Councillor Benny. Right. Members, no more questions to officers, no burning desires. We'll move to debate now. So members who'd like to, which member would like to kick this debate off? Bearing in mind, Councillor Miss Canlan was not taking part in any of this, just for clarification. Members, who wants to kick this off? Councillor Mayor, please.
Yes, I don't sit on the Whittlesey Planning Committee. I am on the council, but I don't sit on their planning committee.
Noted, thanks.
And I do know Coates very well.
I agree.
I think the officers have got this absolutely right. I think the access is dreadful, personally. The 4 properties that have already been built are executive properties and they look superb. But to actually put another access between 2 of those properties to build behind them, I don't think is the right thing at all to do. So I will be supporting the officer's recommendation to refuse this. I feel quite, I understand why people want to build these beautiful properties, but to stick it at the back there and go through the drives of 2 properties, I don't think is right. I just think the officers have got it absolutely right and I will be supporting them.
Yeah, thank you for comments. Okay, anybody want to add to the debate? I don't see anybody. Oh, you.
This is a matter of clarification on something that Councillor Mayor has just said. The driveway to these properties is up the back end of the last property. It is not over 2 properties, it's over 1 property. It runs alongside. The drawing isn't very clear, but I have had a look at it and it's on one property only.
Okay,
That's for clarification only.
absolutely, and state, and we'll please note that, Joe, it's only for clarification only, as I said, councillor, Ms. Scanlon is not taking part in the discussion or the voting purposes. So, any more people to add to the debate then? Councillor Davis?
I think the officers have got this one right, notwithstanding that the field next to it stands to be built out under the new local plan, but they can't take that into consideration yet because that local plan's still out for consultation. So you have to work to the plan that we have at the minute.
Through you, Chairman, because we're at the first draft version of the local plan and it's out to consultation, virtually no weight can be given to the emerging plan. Consultation is ongoing at the moment, and as the plan goes through the process, more and more weight can be given to it in decision making, where there are no objections to the particular policy or allocation that's in play, that's pertinent to the application at the time. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, we want to come back?
No, that's
No,
fine.
well, we're bringing councillor French then.
Thank you. Yeah, I have listened to what Nick has actually said. And I think at this time, officers have got it right. I think the application is probably premature. If they'd have waited a little bit longer, there would have been a stronger case to answer. And I think this time the officers have got it right. It's nothing to stop them putting it in further down as we progress the new local plan.
I'm sure they will, councillor French, if this is refused. I'm sure they will. Right, so we're still in debate. No. Right, I'm going to bring officers in now for their final thoughts. And they haven't got any, my goodness. Okay, so we're looking for a proposal on this application now, and it's councillor Mayor. Would you like to make your proposal, councillor Mayor? Okay, so we've got, just going to put my glasses on here. So councillor Mayor, right, councillor Sutton, are you seconding it? You did have your hand up minutes, seconds before councillor Scolding, but I haven't put up this councillor Scolding. So, so councillor Sutton is seconding that. So to reiterate, then we'll go with officer recommendation to refuse the said application. It's proposed by councillor Mayor, seconded by councillor Sutton. Could we have a show of hands on that proposal, please?
That's a unanimous decision, Chairman.
Yeah, so that application has been refused. Thank you. Swiftly on, application number 9. David, again, to present this application. You're very busy this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So agenda item 9 is planning application FYR 220863F. This is a full planning application to erect first floor rear extension to the existing building at 18 East Park Street, Chatteris. Just draw members' attention to the update report that's been circulated in respect of this application. So the application site is shown in red on the location plan and the aerial photo. It sits at the southern end of Chatteris Town Centre and within the conservation area, just north of the junction of East Park Street and Victoria Street. The building was formerly the police station and is now the head office of the Police Firearms Officers Association, including the Museum of Armed Policing. So the application seeks to erect a first floor extension, shown on the site plan as the dark area, sort of running at 90 degrees to East Park Street. It's worth pointing out on this plan that the property immediately to the north, number 16, is a dwelling, and that the development is immediately to the south of the amenity area for this property. So the upper images here show the site as or the building as existing, with an almost flat roofed single story element running out to the rear. And then the lower images show the proposed developments, with the first floor having a ridgeline matching that of the main part of the building fronting East Park Street. The section drawing here shows the proposed development in some further detail. On the left-hand side, the existing, the right-hand side, the proposed, so you can see how the extension relates to the existing. The floor plans are also shown for completeness. So the proposed first floor on the sort of right-hand side image is shown as facilitating a training room and office, with the ground floor remaining largely as is. Moving on to the photographs of the site. So the upper images show the single-story element of the building over which the development is proposed. The upper right image in particular shows the main part of the building and the ridge height of this, which the proposed extension would match. The lower left image shows a view from the north of the site, sort of to the rear of number 16, and sort of demonstrates the relationship between the development and the amenity space of this property. So the rear wall of the existing building is the green creeper covered structure in between the two trees, just to give a bit of context. And then the lower right image shows the reverse view, sort of looking north from Victoria Street, with the existing flat roof just visible over the top of the wall on the southern boundary of the application site. And then just to move on, this is a street view image taken from Victoria Street, showing that view slightly more widely in between the Salvation Army building to the right and the Scout Hall to the left. And clearly that sort of visual gap would be largely filled by the development proposed. So to summarise, while the broad principle of extending a building in such a location may be acceptable, and it is not considered that there would be an adverse impact on the heritage value of the conservation area, it is considered that the development would have an unacceptable impact upon the amenity of the residents of the property to the north, through the overbearing and overshadowing impact that would be introduced to their entire amenity area, really. In addition, the mass of the developments would have an unacceptable visual impact when viewed from the south on Victoria Street. The development is therefore considered to be contrary to the relevant policies of the local plan, and it is recommended to refuse planning permission accordingly. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David, once again. We have one speaker on this application. I'd like to invite Mark Williams, the applicant, to make his presentation in the committee. You have 5 minutes. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me on to speak today. I'm the CEO of the Police Firearms Officers Association, a charity, registered charity that has 11,000 members UK-wide, and we look after all of them and their families. These are all officers involved in armed policing in the UK. We provide counselling, physiotherapy, financial support, respite breaks, anything that we think will keep police officers at work and get them back to work if they're off work. We moved into Chatteris Police Station in early 2015, where we signed a 15-year lease with the Police and Crime Commissioner. Shortly afterwards, Cambridgeshire Police, in their infinite wisdom, closed the police station. We left it open as an inquiries room at our expense. They decided to close it. We came in one day and it had gone, and that's been the case ever since. We employ 6 staff full-time and 3 part-time, all local people, including myself. I lived in the area 22 years. In 2019, we opened the Museum of Armed Policing, which was the garage area, the dilapidated garage area that we converted into a museum. It attracts over 2,000 visitors a year, educating and informing the public about armed policing, and probably more important and more passionate to me as a local person, we get around the schools and the schools come to us, educating and informing young people about the dangers of knife and gun crime. Many of you know, in November 2019, Her Royal Highness, Princess Anne, visited the museum and expressed her absolute delight in what we'd achieved, and also the work of the staff there supporting police officers nationally. Our planning application looks for us to future-proof our future and assist us to remain in Chatteris. We've been as sympathetic as we can, including wooden cladding that fits in with the buildings immediately around us. We've consulted with neighbours, particularly the elderly neighbours that live to the right of the station as you look at it, from day one, and I'm aware there's no objections to this plan application. The planning application will give us an increased office space, a bigger and better museum, and a state-of-the-art state-of-the-art virtual reality firearms range. You know, this doesn't make noises. It's a new technology that we will be one of the first in the United Kingdom to have. On top of this, this will increase the footfall to visitors to the museum, but we're also introducing insight days for police officers involved who are interested in armed policing coming to Chatteris. Chatteris will be the place to go for armed officers and police officers in general, and those wanting to join the police. So what about the benefits to the local community? I'm really passionate about this because I'm part of that community. And what we are going to do is reintroduce a police station in Chatteris again. And I hear earlier on about concerns about crime and things like that. And we are going to introduce, we've spoken to Cambridge Police, for at least 2 days a week, that police station will reopen again at our expense, not public expense, our expense. And Cambridge Police are well on side of this. We put them in a bit of a predicament because we've invited them in and they're really excited about coming back. The increased footfall to the museum will create money locally and will increase jobs. For the immediate vicinity, the biggest benefit here is we're going to get rid of that carbuncle of a radio mast 30 metres high, that slap bang in the middle of houses and our building. That is going to go. Cambridge Police are already making plans to do that. The station, the police station, will remain a focal part of the village and provide a much needed facility for the community. Thank you very much.
Very interesting, Mr. Williams. Oh,
The village, no, the village.
I would like to take exception at being called a village. We are a town.
just, yeah, I'm certain that's a slip of the tongue, but I'm sure we can all forgive them. So questions to Mr. Williams, please. Councillor Benny, then Councillor French. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm a local councillor and I was talking to one of the ladies who works there the other day, and I'm very pleased you mentioned certain things. I was talking to, I'm always very interested in what goes on, very interested in the crime. We've got Harry, the new police officer in Chatteris. He came to town council the other night, nice fella. And I like to see the community working with the police on this. Coming back to my conversation I had with the lady who works there, and I'm pleased you brought this up, but just to clarify, I didn't realise, I thought it was just a museum for armed policing, but apparently it's the charity work you do in support of firearms officers, which is something that I didn't know. I think that should be something maybe made a little bit more aware so people see that there's more than one use within the building. But the thing I was very pleased to hear about, that this is going to be used as a base for police officers to come and take their rest. They can use it. You know, that means more policing in Chatteris. And yeah. You know, as a local councillor, we get residents saying, oh, you never see a police car. Well, it's always tea break when you're in the police force, so they'll see plenty of police cars driving backwards and forwards. And also, you just said the police station was going to be open 2 days. She actually told me 1. And I think that the people of Chatteris will very, very much welcome this. And the lady that I spoke to did say that if this application is not approved, we will never get a police station in Chatteris again. Because this is an opportunity. This is a golden opportunity for the town. And it's a golden opportunity for everybody who lives in Chatteris to get a better police presence there. And I'm very, very pleased. But if you could just confirm that this is part of the plan, what I was told, so that other members will know about that. We are looking at a police station that will be open, maybe not all day, but even just for a few hours, a couple of times a week. That will be a big step forward from where we are.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor French.
Thank you. I won't be as long-winded as Councillor Benny to ask the question. Mr. Williams, you said it. How are you actually funded? Amazing. Thank you.
Councillor Marks.
Mr. Williams, you said 2,000 people already a year visit you. What do you think by doing this modification it will put football up to?
Sorry, Mr. Williams, can I just use your mic? You won't be picked up on YouTube.
Prior to COVID, that's the football we had. It will increase because if we do the things we're going to do and modernise and make it bigger, it's going to attract more people. I'm aware of parking issues, but the parking's pretty good around Chatteris, as we know. And a lot of people come together as groups, and we'd only take probably 8 or 10 people at any one time, but we can do 2-3 tours a day quite comfortably. So it's going to attract more people, and of course, more people need to use the shops, they can stay locally, etc. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Councillor Murphy, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I thank you for everything you said. I'm sat in awe of that. We needed the police station and we actually didn't get something back again. Actually, you got my vote 10 minutes ago.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm an ex-police officer myself, so you know I feel passionate about it.
Right, Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I too am full of admiration for your plans and what you want to do. Can we just backtrack a little bit? You spoke about the neighbours. One of the pictures we saw was the garden behind the wall, which is going to be quite overshadowed. Have you spoken to them?
John and Marion, we've known them since we moved in there, and we've made a proper special effort to reassure them. And actually, I took the designs around there, left them with them some time ago, and advised them about how they could object to it. And there's no pressure and there's no issues. They love the fact we're there because crime's reduced outside the police station with our CCTV cameras, etc. And I've reassured them about the design itself. I think the design's been made to sort of almost cantilever, so it's not too steep, if that makes sense. They haven't objected. You know, we've been very careful with that because if they, you know, honestly, if they'd said, look, we're really, you know, we don't like this, but I wouldn't have done it. I categorically wouldn't have done it. One person wouldn't have done it.
I'm just going to come in there. I'm absolutely amazed. You've really thought of everything, haven't you? Well, I'm just absolutely amazed. Councillor Scanlon.
I reiterate just what you said. It's nice to see an application come before this committee that has been done properly and is complete. Because the number of times we've received applications that are short of information, misleading information, I think on this occasion that Ms Williams has come forward with all the information that we require to adjudicate on something that's very important to Chatteris.
You can add to that if you wish in the debate, Councillor Miss Canlon, but with questions still to Mr Williams, has anybody got any? Doesn't appear that you've answered really, really well, and thank you very much for that. So now questions to officers, please. Thank you, Mr Williams. Has anybody, members, got any burning questions for officers? No, chances have gone. Open it for debate. Councillor Scanlon, I know you'd want to come in there.
On what I've just said, it's nice to see an application come forward to this committee that is complete, has taken into consideration all the amenities around the area of what it is, and I'm in full support of this, and I think they've done a good job, and they've brought forward a complete application to this committee.
Yep, thank you for those comments. And Councillor French.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Well, obviously, as a March councillor, we do have a March police station, but sadly, we never see any walking policemen. I see dozens at the road that I live. I see dozens and dozens of police cars daily, and I do mean dozens. Most of them are going to RTCs or something like. I think what Mr Williams has just outlined, I think it's a fantastic thing that he's doing. I'm sure that the visitors that attend there will be very interested to see how firearms, I certainly will be. Maybe Mr Benny will take me one day and let me show me around. So I'm actually quite jealous of that. But I certainly will be supporting this application. I think it's good for Chatteris, and not just Chatteris, but good for Fenland.
Yes, thank you. Get in the queue because I think I'm first as chair. So I'll just wait for my application to come through, my invitation to come through the door. Right, we're still in debate. Let's get back to it. Councillor Benny.
Mr Chairman, I think we know where this one's going.
Yes, definitely.
I'd like to propose that we approve this application, go against officers' recommendation. We can debate this, and I don't think it'll change the outcome of the answer for this one. If anybody wants to carry on, they can, but I think
I can't see any burnings either. Councillor Benny, I'm not going to interrupt you. Just reasons why you think that get your book out. I'm not going to stop you in midstream. But please don't make it too long.
I just think the overall, there's nothing detrimental about the scheme. You know, they've worked with the applicants, with the neighbours to bring this forward. Facilitating health and well-being in Fenland residents. I think the fact that having a police station here is going to add a lot of confidence to mental health in the area. 16, so many pulses.
Yeah, I think we can cut a couple of them short, Councillor Benny.
LP16 ensures that the development does not adversely affect the amenity of neighbouring users. Well, I think a lot of work has been done with the neighbours to come up with a scheme. They've had their chance to put forward their objections, and from what we've heard today, and there's nothing to the contrary, they are in support of this scheme, and if the neighbours are in support, so should we be. LP2, that's health and wellbeing. That's what I just did. Yeah. So LP16. 16. Delivering and protecting high quality environments, getting that radio mast down will be a big blot off the landscape. And there was a picture of the back of the police station from Victoria Street. It is a gap, but when that is filled in and that is grown, that will just become part of the street scene at Chatteris, and that will be taken as is any other street in Chatteris. I think that the benefits of this scheme by far outweigh the detrimental concerns within the report.
Well, you've summed that up in a nutshell, Councillor Benny. Couldn't have said anything better myself, but I've got an indication that a second is near and nigh from Councillor Murphy.
It gives me great pleasure actually to second this one because it's funded, we need it, there we've got it. Thank you very much.
Well, not quite. We're probably going that way, Councillor Benny, Councillor Murphy. Anyway, so we've got a proposal to go against officer recommended to approve this application. It's proposed by Councillor Benny, happily seconded by Councillor Murphy. Can we go on that proposal with a hand show, please?
Unanimous decision, Chairman.
That application happily has been approved, and thank you very much for all that. So with that concludes this planning meeting at about 4 minutes to 3. And thank you everybody for the debate. Thank you.